let's talk about properties of real numbers. Now in this video we'll only focus on the properties alone. And as a remark, remember that a variable is just a letter which represents an unknown number. Now then, the closure of real numbers. So to understand the properties of real numbers, so we first have to understand that they just give a structure, or rather it is the structure on the real numbers, and explain how we operate with real numbers. So we will see this in a moment. Firstly, one of these important properties is called closure. So closure simply means if we operate with two real numbers, then we end up with another real number. So whether we add, multiply, or divide two real numbers, we're going to end up with another real number. Now, in maths language, we say real numbers are closed under the set operation, which could be addition, subtraction, or division. Right. So let's pick three representative numbers here. So we're going to say A, B, and C are real numbers. Then the properties of the real numbers will hold here if we operate on these three numbers, namely closure, commutativity, associativity, distributivity, identity, and inverse properties. So let's look at them one by one so that we understand them. Again, we're picking up three real numbers. Now, closure, remember, talks about the real numbers being closed. So when we add two numbers, we end up with a real number. And when we subtract, again, we end up with a real number. Similarly for multiplication and division. Now, as a note, you cannot divide by 0. That's undefined behavior. So here we're restricted to positive and negative real numbers when we divide. Next, commutativity. Now, here we say real numbers commute under addition and multiplication. Commutativity simply means order. So, which one do you start with? Here, we can say A plus B is the same as saying B plus A. It doesn't matter, right? So, if you're in a line, right, to pick up your food, or you're on a buffet, then it doesn't matter if you or I get to the front first, right? We're still going to get our food. Right? So that's commutativity. Right? Now, associativity. That's another one. So here we associate real numbers. Remember, our operations only work with two numbers at a time. So associativity gives us a way to group together numbers so that we can evaluate them. Now here we have associativity under addition. As you can see here, we are adding three numbers, A, B, and C. Right? So which should we add first? Can I add A and B first, or do I add B and C first? Well, this property says, look, it doesn't matter. As long as you are chaining addition here, then you can add A and B first, or you can go with B and C. It's still the same. Now, this also applies for multiplication. Let's take an example. Say we have 4 plus 2 plus 5. Now, we can only operate on two numbers at a time, right? Okay, then we choose. Do we add 4 and 2 together first, or do we add 2 and 5? This property says you can do either, or you can start with either. Okay, let's start with 4 and 2. So we add 4 and 2, we get a 6, right? The 5 is still hanging there, waiting for a number to come out here on the left, right? Now 6 comes out, then we say 6 plus 5, and we get a 11. So we do things bit by bit. This is a very important property. Now, let's start with 2 and 5. Okay, we group 2 and 5, then we add them up. We get a 7, and then 7 ends up with 4, and we get the same answer, which is 11, right? So this property is important. Now I should note that this applies for addition and multiplication alone, right? And they have to chain up like that. Okay. Next, let's talk about distributivity, right? Or the distributive property of real numbers. Now, this is a straightforward property, and it's extremely important, especially when we simplify problems. We say, okay, we have an expression here which says b plus c, and we multiply the whole expression by a. Now this law says we distribute this number which is outside, the number that we are multiplying with, which is a, we distribute it to b and c, which means we multiply both b and c by a, which is what we have on the right of the equation. We have a times b and a times c. Next we have the identity property. So an identity is something that doesn't change the structure of an object, right? So in this case, first we have an additive identity. So this is unique. It's the number 0. So 0 is an additive identity. So what that means is that when we add 0 to a number, that number is unchanged. It remains as it is. So a plus 0 is a. Next we have multiplicative identity. This is unique, which is the number 1. Now, when we say a times 1, we still get a. So these two are identities in the real number system. Then we have inverses. Similarly, we have additive inverse. Now, this one is just the flip of another number. So if we have a, then we take the negative of a. Then the negative a is an additive inverse. What does it mean? If we add a and negative a, we get a 0. Right? Next, we have multiplicative inverse. Now here, when we multiply a by 1 over a, we get a 1. Notice that on the right we get identities. Right? Now, as a key takeaway from this, notice that these properties apply to real numbers. Right? I should note that some of them apply to the other number sets, like your integers. So some of them would apply, but not every property of real numbers works with the other number set. But understanding the properties of real numbers is extremely crucial.